huge ratio of diabetes and cancer. What did I say? Diabetes don't kill them. What kills them? Cancer. What is the precursor to cancer? What percentage? 82. Wonderful. So you see that I'm from a family that has that, right? And at my age, I should either be diabetic or on my way or pre-diabetic. That's very common, all right? On my father's side of the family, heart disease is the #1 killer. My father's side of the family are Southerners. Alabama, Georgia, good old Southern greasy food. You know about it, right? That's what they're used to. What is the one disease that kills most of them? Heart disease. My great-grandfather was the longest living of all of them, and that's because my great-grandfather was the son of a Seventh-day Adventist crop farmer from northern Florida. He, my great-great-grandfather, was one of the first black ministers to be trained by, what's Ellen White's son that went down there? Not James. Is it James? It's not James. Willie White. So when he write about that experience, my grandfather is one of those men that he would go around with and preach it, great-grandfather. So my great-grandfather was raised on what kind of diet? A plant-based diet. And so he lived the longest because in his earlier years, what was he sowing? He was sowing good food. But his children died before him. Why? They weren't eating the same diet. They were raised horribly. One of the worst things about it is that my great-grandfather, when he became a Seventh-day Adventist, when he left the church with his wife, they vowed to never have Adventists in their family. Adventists died and everything else was kicked out. Interestingly, this is not an omen. The day that my great-grandmother died, shortly thereafter, guess who was born? And guess what I became? So they got to keep their vow, but that's what they did, right? So my father's side of the family does not like Adventists. They were raised not like Adventists. They think they're mean, evil, horrible people. Some of that, unfortunately, some of that, unfortunately, is not true. Bad people exist, period. It doesn't matter what denomination, what skin color you are, what religion you are. There are bad people in all shades, colors, sizes, religious, ethnic groups, financial status. It does not matter. Bad people are bad people regardless. Seventh-day Adventism does not make you a bad person. You're a bad person because you're a bad person. Is that clear? Amen. Wonderful. So with that being said, when I joined the church, I knew nothing of Adventism. I know Adventism from what I've seen Adventists live. So I really didn't understand what it was like. So when I became a Seventh-day Adventist, God worked a wonderful thing in bringing me into the church. One thing I did not learn was a health message. So later on, I became a Seventh-day Adventist minister, right? Went to school, studied, graduated, became a pastor, got into a congregation, and quickly I developed a tumor on my right kidney. Now I'm getting sick. Now I shouldn't be sick because to me, I'm living healthy. I am exercising like crazy. I'm playing basketball, I'm playing soccer, and I'm playing regularly, right? I'm in this diving course where we're learning how to dive like Marines. So I'm going through the same regiment like our U.S. Marines go through with their diving, et cetera, and I'm swimming 5 miles. To me, I'm healthy. But what's happening to my body? I'm dying. The tumor got so big that when I did the ultrasound with a doctor, I didn't like the look on his face. He looked like all the blood left from his face, all right? And he said, young man, well, he didn't say young man, but that's how I remember it, right? Please go and get a second opinion, because if what I'm saying is true, you're not going to do well later on. So he's basically saying I'm going to have to get my kidney removed and possibly need a transplant. I didn't like that because I'm very active. If I get a kidney removed, what can I do? I can't be active anymore. I went home. I didn't even tell my mother. My mother found out about my diagnosis years later. I didn't know how to accept it. But here I am. I'm in church. I got off the pulpit one day, and then I'm being wakened up in the vestry. What happened? You passed out. What do you mean I passed out? I'm in my 20s. Passing out. It's not for me. But my body was deteriorating because I was trying to act like what was going on with me was not going on with me. And then while I was in church, you know, there's always that one lady in church that dresses weird. That was the one lady in church that knew the health message. And so she came to me and she said, Pastor, do you want to live? I said, what kind of question is that? Of course I want to live. Like, you going to rob me? What's happening here? Right? She said, well, I want you to read this book. She gave me Ministry of Healing. What did I say I was? No, what did I say I was at that time? I was Adventist pastor. What'd she give me? Know nothing about it. When I read that book, I was blown away. This is beautiful. Why don't we use this more often? And then she gave me another book. She gave me a book called 10 Talents. That's all. It's a cookbook, sorry. Yes, it's a cookbook. And that's all I needed. She gave me that book, and I learned those principles in Ministry of Healing, and I started to live them. And in 2 years, how long am I saying? My tumor was gone. Now, what did I do? I just changed my life, so I started to follow God's plan. Just put it up on the screen. God's plan. Put the slide up on the screen, please. There we go. Wonderful. I started to follow God's plan, and that's what made the difference in my life. God's plan is also known, like I said before, the shortest version of it is the 8 laws of health. The 8 laws of health are known as New Start, but I don't like to use New Start. I prefer God's plan, right? So the 8 laws of health in their foundation are found where? You will find these laws of life in the Bible. And one of the first places you find it is in Genesis chapter 2. One of the laws actually begins from Genesis chapter 2, verse 1, but I'm jumping on to verse 8. Is that okay? And the Lord God planted where? A garden. But where did he plant it? Why did he plant the garden in the east? Every word that is written in the Word of God is for our understanding. What rises in the east? So what would be the first thing that they got? Sunlight. Why is sunlight important? I'm going to show you why it's important a little later. So he planted their garden, their home, he planted it in the east, so that as soon as the sun rose, what would they do? They would also rise. And what would they be exposed to? And what does sunlight do for you? So many things. Like I said, we'll talk about that a little later. And out of the ground made the Lord God to grow what? Every tree that is 2 things. Pleasant to the, and what else? So man's food was found where? Where in the garden? What did the Bible just say? The trees. The trees were where our food originally came from. So the human body, designed by its creator, was meant to eat food that came from where? Good. But not only did the trees provide food, but they provided something else. They were what to the sight? What's another word for pleasant? They were joyful. They were also calming. Mental health. Just looking at trees and being around trees, you notice that it makes you calmer. It's good for you. There's a therapy done in Northern Europe where they take cancer patients out into the forest, and they've noticed that their rehabilitation and their ability to fight the disease increases by up to 45 to 50% just by walking through trees. Did God know something that we didn't? The tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So God put something there. What tree did God not want us to eat from? So right there, you get nutrition and you get temperance. Temperance is what we fail on the most. It was the one sin that Satan saw his greatest strength in, was in temperance. So when he attacked Eve, he attacked her through temperance. Some of you would never take the Lord's name in vain. Some of you would never break the Sabbath. Some of you would never do many of the other sins in the Ten Commandments. But the one sin that is easiest to do is breaking that of temperance, because it's done typically in privacy. When you're home alone with your refrigerator, ain't nobody there to tell you, sis, you shouldn't eat an extra piece of that cake. So it makes it difficult. What was preventing Eve from doing it? Displeasing God. But was God there? Well, he was there, but was he visible to her? When did Satan attack her? While she was with Adam? She was what? Alone. Satan's greatest victories over us is when he gets us alone. So do not be surprised by how society is structured today, because we are our weakest when we're by ourselves. Iron sharpens, and one man sharpeneth another. God's ideal was never that man be isolated and separated. So much so that in the creation of man, two human beings have to come together to make one. So no matter what, the moment you come into the world, there are at least two human beings looking out for you. And what happens to a child if they're not touched enough, kissed enough, and hugged enough? It has nothing to do with nutrition. They die. Because our very bodies were made to be in the company of someone else. They say that's why wives live so long. But I digress. Genesis chapter 2, verse 10. And what went out? A river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from thence what happened? It was parted and became how many heads? 4 heads. Now I'm going to shorten this so we don't spend too much time on this. The 4 heads go in 4 directions: north, south, east, west. So no matter what direction you went, what would you always find? Water. Because water is important to the human body. And God wanted to make sure that once they left their home, where did the river part? Where did it come from? Out of Eden, not into Eden. Where is it going? Out of Eden. So as they left Eden to do whatever they had to do, they would always have, you get it. And the name of the first was compasseth the whole land of Hivlah where there is gold. So it's letting you know that these are loaded with minerals. All right? And the gold is good. And the name of the second was Gihon. That's verse 13. Let me go to verse 14. So these are the rivers. And then verse 15. And the Lord God took the man and put him where? To do what to it? What does dressing it mean? To take care of it. So even in a perfect world, there was work to do. But why was there work to do? We need to be active. God did not make man to be idle. We were not meant to be sedentary and idle. It is not good for us. Did you know that sitting for 2 hours is equivalent to smoking half a pack of cigarettes? That's the effect on your body when you sit for 2 hours. It's equivalent to smoking 2 packs of cigarettes. Do you know why? Because your blood is stagnant. Our body is made up of 3 basic pumps: your heart and your calf muscles. Did you know that? Your calves are known as a peripheral pump. Your calf muscles, when they're toned and nice and strong, are very important in getting blood to flow back upwards. When it sits there and it pools, it becomes toxic. And when it finally does move up, what happens to your heart and your lungs? They have to now deal with those toxins. Your heart is not a filter. So which filter is it first going to come in touch with? Your lungs. Doesn't hit the kidneys first. So it comes up and hits the kidneys going down, so you understand. So if you look at the blood flow, everything goes up to the liver, hepatic portal, up to the heart. Everything goes from the aorta out to the left arm and then to the rest of the body and back up. You understand? Right? So the first filter it hits is not necessarily the liver, because the liver hits things as it's going out. And then again, it can hit things coming back in, but it depends. It depends on, how to say this. The liver can control how often it filters. Does that make sense? How often it filters, just like your kidneys. If your kidneys filtered at a high rate, you'd be dehydrated all the time. They control how much it filters depending on the toxicity levels of the body or whatever is needed or not needed in the body. Do you understand that? Does that make sense? So their organs know how to function and how to filter and when to filter. Does that make sense? Okay, good. So when they're not working well, what happens to you? You get breakouts because now the other filters in your body have to deal with it, like your lungs and your skin. Your skin is the largest excretory organ in your body. So when they don't get it, it comes out in your skin with blotches, rashes, bumps, pimples, all kinds of stuff. You're getting it? Good. Why do we get there? Oh, the dressing and the exercising. So you want to make sure that you're not stagnant. You want to move around. So if you sit for very long periods of time, you're going to do damage to yourself. How many of you ever done a car ride for 4 hours? What happens to you when you try and stand up? You get wobbly, but what happens to your muscles? They feel weak. Why are they weaker? Blood's not flowing like it should be. They're literally sitting in a pool of toxins. So they need you to move. So that weak feeling sometimes you get, if you sit too long, you get up, what happens to your knee? All of a sudden you can't move your knee. Your nerves and everything, your nerve endings are inflamed. You need to move. You got to get these pumps moving. So God, having us to dress the garden and take care of the garden, made sure that we were either standing or, and in doing that, what are we activating? The whole lower body. And the Lord God commanded that man saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest eat what? How many trees? Does God want us to eat the same thing every day? That is the major reason why most of us suffer from nutritional deficiencies. Sorry. Nutritional deficiencies are because we eat the same thing every day. Should you eat oatmeal every day? No. Should you eat bananas every day? You can drink smoothies every day, but you got to switch them up. You got to change them up. Should you eat spinach every day? You eat spinach every day, you're going to be in the doctor's office and you're going to have kidney stones. It doesn't matter if it's good for you or not. You're not supposed to eat the same thing every day. Too much of anything is bad for you. You can drink too much water. You can kill yourself by drinking too much water. All right? So God never intended for us to eat the same thing every day, but often we do that. We get into this rut routine where we eat oatmeals and blueberries and bananas, and then for lunch we eat rice and peas, and then we eat a salad for dinner, and we eat the same thing every single day. And then after a while, give it about mostly a year, what happens to that person? They're always tired. You'll always see them tired or groggy or easily irritable. What's happening to them? There are nutrients that their body needs, but they're not getting. They're malnourished. Now, some people say, but you're getting your sugar, you're getting your antioxidants, you're getting your fiber. What's the problem? Variety is very important. Notice something about fruits and vegetables. Each of them have a what? A season. They're not all year round. So if we ate the way God intended us to eat, Even if we wanted to eat the same thing all the time, we couldn't because they're not here all year round and they don't always come at the same time. So in nature, you see that God never intended us to eat the same thing every day. You're getting it? Wonderful. So one of the first laws is nutrition. Variety in your food is important. Switch up your grains once in a while. I don't care if you get 3 or 4 grains that you switch up. Just switch them up because they have nutritional differences. Switch up your fruits. Don't eat bananas every day. Bananas are loaded in potassium and other things, but you need antioxidants. You need other enzymes. You need vitamins. And these things are found in the various fruits that you eat. Okay? Eat an apple. Eat an orange. Eat a tangerine. Experiment sometimes and eat other strange fruits. Just eat variety. And you will not get sick. Just like your body builds up a resistance to drugs, it can build up a resistance to good things as well. So the effect of eating certain things can go away. The only thing I do recommend that you eat for a long period of time is grapefruit, but that's for treatment purposes, and we'll talk about that a little later. But after nutrition, after you eat, you should always what? So important, exercise. If you put fuel in a full tank, what's going to happen? It's going to overflow. What are you putting yourself at danger to? An explosion. But with us, where do we explode? We explode everywhere else. We get big and fat. Y'all scared to say it? Get fat. Because there's more going in than coming out. And that's what gets us. So we need to exercise. Every time you eat, you should work. There should be some form of exercise. So if you're not exercising, you're not moving your body, your blood vessels are not going to work like they should. Your muscles won't get the tone that they should. You won't get the musculoskeletal structure that you need to prevent you from deteriorating later on in life. That's one of the biggest issues that we go through. Now, in everything, with nutrition, with exercise and everything, there's temperance. You can work out too much as well. How many old bodybuilders do you see? And when they get very old, what typically happens to them? They get flabby and they can't walk, they can't stand. Look at, what's his name? One of my favorite bodybuilders. What's his name? Ronnie Coleman. Ronnie Coleman still can't walk right. Mr. Olympia 10 times. Can't walk right. And how old is he? 65? He's not old. The fittest man in the world, big and strong. And when I say big and strong, Coleman was strong. His patented phrase was lightweight. This man is squatting almost 1,000 pounds on his shoulders. This is half of an elephant. All right? Now what happened to his body? Couldn't take all of that. Broke down. So there is too much and there is too little. How do you know that you're not exercising enough if you're falling asleep right now? Y'all didn't expect to hear that one? If you're falling asleep right now, that's an indication that you are not exercising enough. It is not natural for you to have to take naps. It is also not natural for you to not be able to concentrate for long periods of time. Did you know that? That's one of our biggest weaknesses in today's society, is that our attention span is like 10 minutes, if so much. And we can't concentrate, and when we concentrate, what happens to us? Why are you falling asleep? I'm not that boring. But why are you tired? You're not, well, not getting enough sleep will play on you being tired. That's definitely one for sure. But if you don't have proper circulation and proper nutrition, you are going to feel tired. Okay? I came off yesterday of a 36-hour shift. Do I look tired? Do I look low on energy? Guess what I didn't do for the entire day today? I haven't eaten. But what is happening to me? It's using the reserves. Why is it able to use the reserves? Not just that, it's used to using the reserves. Because I exercise, I move around, I do strenuous work. So if your body's not accustomed to that, it won't know to do that in times of need. Do you understand that? That's why fasting is so difficult for some people. They fasted for 4 hours. Oh my goodness, is it time to eat yet? Oh my, I can't, they can't handle it. Because they're so inactive that the body doesn't know to pull from the reserves. So they're going glurk, glurk, and they like, listen, I need a sandwich, I need something. It's an indication that you're not doing what enough? Another indication not getting enough exercise if you can't sleep at night. You can't sleep at night, you didn't exercise enough during the day. I guarantee you get into a good exercise routine, the one thing you're going to get a lot of is sleep. And you won't have trouble sleeping. The biggest difficulty for us sleeping in today's society is this right here. What do we do to lull ourselves to sleep? Scroll. Sometimes we turn off the TV thinking that we accomplished something. And then we sit down and then we check. Oh my God, I've been up for 2 hours. One more video. And it gets you. And that's why they make the phones like this. Phones naturally have a blue light setting. What does blue light do to you? Keeps you up. So if you don't turn your blue light setting on, the more you look at the phone, the more alert you're going to be. And you can stay on it till 4 or 5 in the morning. Guess what you're not? You're not tired all of a sudden. Why are you not tired? Because you're giving your body stimulation. That's what the blue light's doing. Water. I always like to start with this illustration. Your body will do everything possible to keep you alive. And the one thing it needs to do that is water. So your body has this very interesting way of reserving water that is found in your body. Guess where the largest source of water is in your body at any moment? What part of your intestines specifically? The colon is your water's reserve, the body's water reserve. What's in your colon? Feces. So where is the water pulling from when you're dehydrated? From your feces. So when you defecate and you see cracks in your stool, or it's coming out in pebbles, or it's really hard and difficult sometimes, you got to give it an extra push to get it out, what is that a sign that you are? So the hydration necessary for the feces to naturally be evacuated is being reabsorbed into your system. Yes. Oh, that's in the case of when you have too low sodium. So one of the difficult things, I'm glad you brought that up, brother. I love you already. The question was, this morning I said you can drink too much water, right? And it does no good for you. Now that's because of low sodium. One of the biggest misconceptions that we have is distilled water is good for you. Distilled water. That's the worst water for you to drink possibly. Dead water is bad for you, and distilled is the worst. It's the deadest water. It is nothing but H2O. God never meant for us to drink distilled water. You know what else is called distilled water? Don't choke now, sis. Drink it down, but not too fast. Right? Distilled water is rainwater. Did rain exist in the Garden of Eden? When did rain pop up? At the flood. Was rain a good thing? What was rain? What did it come as? As punishment. And Satan has us so deceived that drinking our punishment, he couldn't get you to drown back then, so he's drowning you with it now, right? Because we were never meant to drink dead water. Most bottled water is dead. It's dead water. So what happens with dead water? Remember osmosis? Things move from an area of low concentration to an area of high concentration, or high concentration to low concentration, high to low. So what happens is when you drink dead water, or especially rainwater and distilled water, there are no minerals in it. So your water goes through the system and it grabs the minerals from you. So now what are you depleting yourself of? Minerals. So what happens to the water? It goes out because there's no minerals to keep it. So now you're drinking, but what else are you also doing? Urinating constantly. And we think once we see clear urine, it's a good thing. Urine should never be clear. It should always have a tint of yellow because urine is called urine because of urea. If there's no urea in it, it's clear. If there's urea in it, there's yellow. If there's no urea, what are you removing? Water. But you need the water. So the issue is that we drink water not according to God's method. God's plan is that we drink mineralized water. You drink mineralized water, you have fewer trips to the bathroom because the water now gets to go where it needs to. How do you mineralize water? Add salt to it. But what kinds of salts? Celtic salt, pink Himalayan salt, not pink salt. My dear brother Smith reminded me, you don't drink pink salt. I did a whole presentation on that with him in the class. But you don't drink pink salt because they call it pink salt because they're not lying to you. It's just pink salt. Pink Himalayan salt is salt that has 82 minerals. Yes, 82 minerals in it. Pink salt does not. It's just salt that's pink. So you can't sue them because they're not lying to you. They told you it's pink salt. Celtic salt. Celtic is even better. So if you suffer from dehydration, pain, or trouble sleeping at night, Celtic salt's the best because it has 3 excess magnesiums in it. So it helps to keep you calm and is very good at hydrating the body. So let me give you the measurement so you don't oversalt yourself. Because guess what? You put too much salt, it becomes a laxative. No. So
Testing. Question in the back.
1 second.
When you're done.
Then
Okay.
when I'm done. So the ratio is half a teaspoon, right, to every gallon. It's not a lot. So half a gallon to what? Half a teaspoon to every gallon. So how much of this salt are you going to go through a month? Not a lot. Your body doesn't need a lot. It just needs some. So the water isn't even that salty. You will notice a taste difference. But with that in your system, now you're way more hydrated than you normally were. Your electrolytes are off the chains, and you're going to have more energy and better sleep. And less what? And less trips to the bathroom. One of the most beautiful things about doing the Celtic Salt Challenge, if you do it, you're going to notice a great change in your skin. It's going to get softer and nicer and easier to deal with. Because I do construction. I need a female. A female.
Okay.
This is Celtic salt. Celtic is kind of green. Doesn't matter, as long as they dissolve. So we had a question in the back.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Thank you for taking the question. Just because we're on the topic of water. So you mentioned distilled water. So my question is, I've read where we should be drinking pure and soft water. So wouldn't distilled water fall in that category, number one? And number two, I mean, with the addition of the Celtic salt, I guess, would that make that acceptable? But also just, soft water, I guess that's what my question is on.
Well, soft water doesn't mean mineral deficient. It just means clean or unpolluted by like things like iron and like you don't want iron in your water. Or harsh chemicals, so it's soft. Pure meaning that there are no other physical or visible contaminants in it. So that's one of the best definitions for that. But water, the best water we can drink is from a well or from the river. Right. And if you don't have access to that, if you don't have a well, you get your distilled water and you add the salt. And now all your issues are solved. That's all you have to do. I said how much? Half a teaspoon to every gallon. Any water. So even with your Deer Park has minerals in it because it's spring water. It doesn't have all the minerals that you need, but it has a lot of them. right? So it's not a bad water, okay? Now, hear me out, guys. I'd rather you drink some water than no water. But if you're going to drink the water and you really want the benefit, you want to add the salt. Celtic salt is what I like to use because it really helps me with hydration. Now, like I was saying before, I do construction. Now, when you work, and like sometimes, like during this week, I'm on a roof. What don't I have the privilege of doing? Not just getting water. I can't go to the bathroom. I cannot come down from there. I am up there for hours at a time, but I drank a gallon of water. I'm sweating, but what am I not doing? Because my water is being used. The minerals are retaining it until it's used up. So I'm going to feel thirsty before I need to urinate. That's the power of the minerals. And that's what God wanted in our bodies. Yeah, there's mineral water. But when they use mineral water, it's typically like 1 or 2 minerals in it. You need a plethora. Typically, you need about 72 minerals in your water to get you to the right hydration. This has 86. So you have extra. All right? There were 2 questions. Oh, they want to hear the questions. I'm sorry. Yes, that would make sense.
Mike.
People online would love to hear. I apologize, folks.
Mike.
I was just curious. I know some people will put like a crystal and then drink or whatever, but for you in that situation, did you just put the salt in your water and do you shake it up,
Yeah,
or how
dissolve
to try to get it just to dissolve,
Yeah.
and then you're good?
Then
Okay,
you're good, yeah.
thank you.
So it's just make sure it's dissolved. If it's still visible, you don't want that. You want it to dissolve as much as possible. All right? So like I was saying, hydration is a very important thing with that, and I do construction. So my hands are supposed to be what?
Rough.
Rough and hard. How do they feel?
They're not rough and hard.
And I just came off a 36-hour shift. So they should be what? Rough and hard. How many of you ever done tile replacement or tile, or when you got damaged tile? What do you have to do to replace the damaged tile? You got to break it up, right? My company doesn't like to use tools like electric, so I got to use a what? A hammer and a chisel. These are hammer and chisel hands. I should have calluses, but why don't I? You're hydrated.
And of course, gloves. No gloves.
No gloves.
Whoa.
So how important is hydration? Thank you, sis. Extremely. If you can stay hydrated, you'll be fine. So let's ask the best question. How much water should I drink per day?
Half your body weight.
Easy question to answer. How much do you weigh? You weigh 200 pounds, you need to drink 100 ounces of water. You weigh 150 pounds, you need to drink 75 ounces of water per day. That's the minimum. What did I say? Minimum. That is not the maximum. That is the minimum. I weigh 210 pounds, right? I need to drink 105 ounces. I drink a gallon. Why am I drinking a gallon?
You're sweating a lot.
I'm sweating a lot. I'm very active, so I need the extra ounces of water to keep me going. And I'm a man, right? So the more water you drink, so here's another thing. I only eat 2 meals a day. Do I look malnourished?
No.
Why?
Eat heavy meals.
I'm eating the right foods, and I'm keeping hydrated.
Heavy meals.
What helps? They're heavy. Oh, they're heavy.
Yeah.
They are heavy. I'll admit that. I apologize.
You have to.
Yeah, I'm done with the Celtic salt. When I eat, I eat.
You're justified in it.
Yeah, you're justified in eating. So if you eat 3 meals doing construction, that's perfectly fine. You eat 4 meals, that's perfectly fine. You just got to make sure that while you're working, you're not gaining what? Once you start to see that you're gaining weight, what does that mean to your food proportions? They need to what? They need to come down. Simple as that. The output must either match or be greater than the input. And that's how weight loss is done. There's no magic way or magic pill or magic drink that's going to make you lose weight. Weight loss is one simple thing. The output must be greater than the input, and weight is lost. That's simple. So if you want to lose weight without exercise, there will be consequences.
I have a question.
Yes.
For men and women at certain ages, their hormones will change. Testosterone down for men, estrogen down for women. And I thought that that also contributed to the gain in the stomach.
Visceral fat?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes and no. So for women, actually increase of estrogen will cause you to get more plump in certain areas, especially in the middle region here. So a decrease of estrogen, hormones, and the decrease of testosterone does the same thing for men. Men also have estrogen in their bodies. When your testosterone lowers, what hormone it did not lower? And what does estrogen do? It makes you nice and plump. So you're going to start to gain weight in certain places. And estrogen weight is harder to lose than any other weight because of the hormones. Your estrogen, especially in women, it's doing that to protect you. It's giving you plumpness in certain areas for childbearing and to protect you from falls and injuries because your bones are not as dense as men's. So it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just when they're too high, you get too plump in certain areas. Estrogen is what you call a cell growth proliferator. It makes things bigger. That's why women have breasts, and that's why their body parts shape a certain way. That's the estrogen forming that. Now, if a man has too much estrogen, what's he going to get?
Breast.
He's going to get breasts. What's going to happen to his hips? They're going to go out because estrogen should never be high, and he's also going to gain weight here. So that's typical. You'll notice that women who typically have, well, we all adults here, that typically have big derrieres, what do they struggle with the most? Because what made that big? Wonderful. It's not just a muscle. It's a muscle that responds. It's a muscle, yeah, but it responds to estrogen. What else is needed again? We said we were going to talk about it. Oh, it's not on the screen. I'm sorry. Just pop it up on the screen, the PowerPoint. There we go. Sunlight. Why is sunlight so important and why did God do it? There's a certain portion of your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. It's located right about here near your temporal lobe. The suprachiasmatic, it's even on the screen. The suprachiasmatic nucleus is responsible for jump-starting your heart when you wake up in the morning, the stomach and intestine and your pancreas starting to create its juices. It starts your liver. It starts the muscles so that you can really use them. It activates the adipose tissue. It motivates the adrenal glands, and it stimulates the kidneys. That's just sunlight. So when you sleep in a room with blackout curtains, and you're waking up by an alarm and not the sunlight, and you're going to work, what typically happens to you? You feel what? What wasn't activated? Everything. So now you're struggling to get up out of bed, man, I don't want to go to work today. But what happens to you when the sunlight wakes you up? What can't you do? You can't go back to sleep. It's impossible. Because once that's activated, it's activated, and you are awake. You are alert. Cortisol is pumping. Cortisol at this stage is the highest it's going to be in your body for the entire day. And your body is ready to go. But what stimulated it?
Sunlight.
So I don't recommend blackout curtains unless you live in a very bad area where there's just too much light around and you can't sleep at night. But if you do have blackout curtains and you really want to wake up in the morning, what's the first thing you should do? And let that sunlight hit your face. It hits your face better than coffee. All right? Better than coffee. That's what you want to hit you. Next is,
Temperance.
it's one of the hardest things to do. Eating till you're full is one of the biggest reasons why we are diseased and sick today, even if you're eating healthy food. Too much of a good thing is also, it's also bad. So if you don't know about plate, just look it up. Google it, understand the plate model, and look at the portion sizes. The portion sizes sometimes go according to weight and activity, and it makes it a lot easier for you. So you know how much to eat of certain things and how little to eat of certain things. So one of the biggest issues, I'll talk about construction because a lot of guys I know work there. Construction men at a certain age stop looking big and muscular? What happens to them? Where do they start to look big? In their stomach. What's happening to them? Their activity levels are decreasing because of age. They can't work like they used to. When I remember working at one construction site, there was a young man, 21 years old. Listen, I don't know if y'all know how heavy a pallet of wood is. It's not light. We're going almost to 200-300 pounds. This young man, and he's going upstairs with it. And I'm looking at him like, boy, you crazy. What is wrong with you? But he has that energy. Guess at lunchtime what he ate? Everything. Everything. And he was slim and trim. Now, that kind of activity was perfect for that kind of eating. But now you're 40, you can't do that kind of work because your knees are shot, and you're eating like you did when you were 20. What happens? The input doesn't match the output, and now the visceral fat happens. And the biggest issue is that a lot of men in particular, we eat way too much carbs. Way too much carbs. We love carbs. We like bread, we like pastas, we like starch, we like potato. We eat way too much carbs. So we eat all these carbs, we don't exercise like we should, boom. And why is that dangerous? The more fat you have around your gut, the greater your risk of prostate disease. Now let's look at the natural trajectory. Prostate disease is a circulatory issue. Didn't know that, did you? It's not just nutrition, it's a circulatory issue as well. Prostate disease is sparked by two things: bad circulation and low testosterone. What happens to the prostate when it's sick? It does what? It enlarges. What hormone causes enlargement? So what is not keeping the estrogen at bay? Testosterone. So low levels of causes the prostate to, wonderful, you're getting it. So the issue is poor circulation and low testosterone. So to do that, you got to get the flow messed up. The blood pumps from the heart to the prostate area. What's in the way? Your guts. Where is the circulation getting messed up?
In the gut.
No, I didn't solve the problem. It can also get messed up in the legs.
How do you solve the problem? She asked.
Oh, how do you solve the problem? I'm going to get on that. How do you build up testosterone? That's the question, right? How do you build up testosterone? There's only one way men develop testosterone, and it's seen when we're children. When our testosterone is building as children, what do young boys always do?
Running.
Run, jump, play, lift things, fight. Why are they doing that? They're naturally creating testosterone. We create testosterone by exercising, by moving. So the more sedentary we become, the less our testosterone will be. Sir, I noticed you got an accent. Where are you from originally? Grenada. Oh, perfect. Wonderful. The spice aisle. Now, in Grenada, you guys have a lot of mountains, right? And you guys grow a lot of food on the mountains. So you'll notice that the longest living men live where? Where they live?
In the mountains.
In the mountains. Why are they living so healthy?
A lot of exercise.
Because they're moving. Now, you got to understand something. Grenada has steep hills. So they're not just walking up a slight incline. They're walking up an incline. So what are they constantly activating? Everything. So what do they have a high level of? And these men that live in the mountains, when they live up there, they typically don't eat from the grocery stores. They eat what they grow. So they're always gardening. Why are these men living longer? Exercise, nutrition, sunlight, fresh air. And they can eat a lot, and they deserve to eat a lot because of the heavy amount of work that they do up there. See how it correlates? So when you also look at the blue zones, and you look at the areas where the blue zones are, all blue zones are farmers, except for Loma Linda, which is no longer a part of the blue zone. That was the only non-farming community that was a blue zone. Every blue zone is a farming community. What did God want us to do to the garden?
Take care, address it.
How important this gardening is? When you saw your Mima and great-grandma in the gardens cooking, they lived long and lived happy. Did they ever get sick? They were never sick. Why weren't they sick? They were being obedient to God's commands, whether they knew it or not. What else is so important? What else is so important? Fresh what? There's a whole presentation I could do for y'all on fresh air. Air is such an important thing. Oxygen, especially oxygen on the outside, is such an important thing. Let me take this question first.
So I'm wondering about, as we age and our hormones go down, do they have to go down or
Not necessarily.
not?
Not
Like-
necessarily. So
Like
you
women
can,
go into menopause
yeah.
and men go into andropause, but
Yeah.
does that have to happen or can
So it is going to happen because we're no longer in need of reproduction. So certain things are going to shut down and stop. But it doesn't have to have the effect that it normally has. So once again, it's reaping what you sow. So in your younger years, if you take care of yourself, you're going to have a very easy menopause. Same thing with men. You take care of yourself very well, you won't even notice that your testosterone starts to dip. No matter what you do, it's going to dip. Because as you age, you just can't do what you did when you were 5 or 6. So it's going to dip. But you can prevent it from dipping too low. Do you understand that? So that's the important thing about that. So when it comes to fresh air, oxygen, fresh air, the best place to get fresh air is outside in nature, away from factories, buildings, cars, pollutants, because it's fresh. The oxygen, especially where trees are, is negatively charged. You always want negatively charged oxygen. That's what the body responds to the best. How long? Well, there was a video earlier today about oxygen, fresh air, during the
Health Spotlight.
Health Spotlight from Brother
Elder John.
Elder John, right? So you got an idea of it. You can live minutes without oxygen, days and weeks without water and food. But oxygen is an immediate need all times. So if you don't get fresh air, go somewhere where you can get fresh air at least once or twice a day. How many times? A day. How much do you need oxygen? Every day. And you need that negatively charged oxygen. It is so important for the body. Negatively charged oxygen. Let me say this. Cancer cannot survive in the presence of oxygen. It is a scientific fact. It is documented. Many studies have been done on it. A very oxygenated body, cancer cannot survive in the presence of oxygen. So the more fresh air you breathe, and this is why the study in Northern Europe was so interesting amongst the trees, the more fresh air you breathe in, the more the more negative charged oxygen you're breathing in, cancer cannot thrive. So that's what made the study so beautiful. So you can look it up and you can check it out about that. So even during the winter, what I try to do is I always open a window. I sacrifice one window, right? So that some fresh air can come in. And as much as possible, I go outside. A lot of folks are scared of the cold. I like the cold, right? You hate the cold? I like the cold. I like what it does to me. Like my wife will tell you, sometimes during winter, I put a T-shirt on and some shorts, and I go outside, and I soak it in. Sounds crazy, right? But guess what happens to my body when I come back inside? I got a lot of fresh air. It's going from the cold to the hot, and everything is woken up. And my white blood cells are now all over my body. If T-shirt and shorts. Take some deep breaths, stretch a little bit. Wait till I can feel it in my bones, and I walk back in. And as my body's warming up, my blood is littered with white blood cells. We did this with a client that we had. She went to the doctors. Doctors told us her white blood cell count was too low, and she needed help. Did a hot and cold treatment on her feet. Tested her blood 20 minutes after. Her white blood cell count tripled. That's just from moving from the cold to the hot. So don't be scared of cold. Enjoy it sometimes. What else do you need? Sleep. It's such a beautiful thing, especially when you get enough of it. What hours of the day should you be sleeping?
10 to 2.
Between 10 and 2, every human being should be asleep. That is such an important thing. Here's why. Your body works through rhythm and timing. It doesn't care what you want to do. Your body works through rhythm and timing. Every human being has an internal clock that will start between the hours of 10 to 2. And it needs the liver to do so, right? The liver, the body switches from what is known as the anabolic phase, which takes place, that's a form of metabolic phase, is the anabolic phase, that's the buildup phase that happens during the day. That's why when you have a cold, during the day you don't feel the symptoms of the cold. But as soon as it gets dark outside, what happens? All of a sudden, your sickness gets worse. Right. Because when the sun sets, your body shifts from the anabolic phase to the catabolic phase. It starts to break things down so that the liver can create everything necessary for the morning to build things up. The liver does not build while you're awake. So if you're awake during the hours of 10 and 2, what are you losing? Building material needed for the next day. So what suffers? Your entire body. So if you sleep between the hours of 10 and 2, your liver gets to build everything. All the enzymes are ready. So when the sunlight hits your eyes, your body's not only moving forward, it's moving forward with everything that it needs. And you get to build and recover better. Right. So when you're sick, you should sleep. And what happens to you afterwards? You feel better. Why are you feeling better? Because your liver gets to do what it needs to do. What it needs for you to do is sleep. So that it can do what it needs to. We have a question in the back.
Yes. Is this working? As you get older, the seniors are always called taking a senior nap, maybe from 2 to 3 or 2 to 4. What about that?
If you're a senior and you're working hard, you can take a nap. If you're not working hard, you shouldn't be napping. It just shouldn't happen. It is, like I said, it is a consequence of us not getting enough activity. So it's not that we're working too much. We're not getting enough activity consistently. And so our bodies can't handle that. Here's a case in point. There's a 78-year-old woman who became a vegan when she was, what, 60? 40? 40? I thought she was older than that. She became a vegan at 40, right? She's 78 years. I cannot keep up with this woman. She's fit, fast, and very healthy, all right? She does one-arm push-ups. I still can't do that. How old is she? Guess how much push-ups she can do at one sitting? Push-ups. What? 200. How old is she? Why is she not taking naps? Because she works out. She's keeping the motor going. Body in motion. That's what the body needs. How do you work up to what? It takes time, baby steps. So you start with 10 push-ups. Then you do 20. Then you do 30. So you slowly work your way up. And that's how you get to that point. So it's like when I used to play basketball, right? I would train to be able to run the entire 32 minutes, give or take timeouts, the entire 32 minutes. So how am I doing that? By running for how long? 32 minutes. And do you think it was easy to do the first time? Guess how I felt 60 seconds in the first time? I'm done. I'm done. I can't do this. And then I got to 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I worked my way up. And then when I finally got to the 32 minutes, man, there was no stopping me. I was the one guy on the court. You don't take me off. I'm good. I can play all game. This game is too short for me now because I can push myself further than that. It took a while to get to that point. But you have to take baby steps. I can't do that now because I don't play basketball no more. I would love to play basketball. I just don't have the time like I used to. So I have to do other things to keep myself active.
Now, the catabolic cycle starts typically around 7 p.m., correct?
Yeah, once the sun sets.
Okay, so my question is, what's the advantage of making your bedtime shortly after the start of that as opposed to waiting till 10 o'clock to go into bed?
No, you don't have to wait till 10. That's a very important question. Beautiful, beautiful question. You don't have to wait till 10. You can sleep. But I need you to be asleep between those 2 hours. I mean, between those 4 hours, 10 and 2. You need to be asleep. So if you go to 7 and you can sleep from 7 to 2, that's wonderful. But you need to be asleep between what hours? 10 and 2. You can't go to sleep at 10 o'clock? You can exercise you to that point.
So what if you need to like get up and do some work and then go back to sleep? So you 10 and 2 sleep, get up, I need to do some work, and then go back to sleep.
That's fine.
That's okay.
That's fine.
As long as you get the 10
Those
and 2. Now,
hours
if you
in.
don't get between 10 and 2 and you have to be up, you go to sleep and get back up before before 6, 5, whatever. Is that gonna hurt you? Is that gonna hurt you?
As long as you get those hours, doesn't matter when you wake up and do whatever. Those are the most important hours of sleep, those 4 hours between 10 and 2.
Okay.
So 11 and 2, you're shortening the amount of time that your body gets. So that's 3 hours worth. So you really need the 4 hours worth between 10 and 2. So like for some folks, I know one person in particular, he likes to start his workday at about 3 o'clock, right? So I encourage him to get to sleep at least 8. So he's asleep at 8, he's up at 2, and guess what happens to him? He feels better, his body's doing better. And this person in particular was suffering from organ failure, all right? One of his organs were failing, and the recent report that we got from the doctor is that his organs are now doing a lot better. What is he doing? Resting. We changed the diet a little bit, I must admit on that. But he's resting more. And that sleep is so important for the build-up the next day. So your body can't heal properly unless it gets those hours of sleep between 10 and 2. And if you have trouble sleeping at that time, exercise your way to it. You'll sleep better.
Question. Yes. Question, those people working in the hospital, like doctors and nurses, working those swing shifts like that from 12 to 6 or whatever, how does it affect their body?
So this is how it affects them. There's an interesting study. You can find this on the NIH. You can also find it from Harvard and I forget, is it Princeton? I forget the other school. There were a couple of schools that did this study. The highest rate of Alzheimer's and dementia is amongst persons who work night shifts. So you'll notice that a lot of nurses and doctors often develop Alzheimer's or dementia later on because of those shifts that they work. The body needed that rest, but it wasn't given that rest. So a lot of the buildup and the healing that was necessary never took place. So now they're sick in their later years. You reap what you sow. So it's very important to get that sleep. So the study was done, I think, back in 2019, where they noticed this just boom amongst this disease in nurses and doctors and persons that worked the night shift. Factory workers as well that would work late at night. They all have those issues. Another issue that they would always have too is pain right here, sciatic pain. That would also be another issue that they would have. We had a question here and then here. Go ahead.
So what about people who are night owls? So my auntie is a night owl. She does her best work in evenings. I mean, we'd work all day. We both taught at the same school. Then we'd go home and she'd be there till 8 or 9 o'clock still working. Then she'd go home and do work because she was late every day for school because she couldn't get up and be there, you know. But she's a night owl and she is struggling with dementia now.
Yeah. That's a natural consequence.
Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't her work schedule. It was her internal schedule keeps her up.
Yeah.
How do we get?
Well, that's the thing about exercise. Exercise, especially during the day, will put your circadian rhythm in the right place. That's why you notice I keep talking about exercise. It is so important to that. If you exercise like you should, your oxytocin and all the other serotonin and all the hormones will start to balance themselves out. So by the time the sun starts to set, melatonin starts to kick in. And once melatonin naturally kicks in, you start to feel sleepy. So you're going to naturally start to go to sleep earlier. I used to be a night owl, especially in college. Now, 9 o'clock, don't call me. I'm sleeping. I'll get up early. I'll get up 3 o'clock. I'll get up 4 o'clock. I'll do that for you. But by the time it's 9 o'clock, if I'm in my bed, I'm in my bed. Do not bother me. All right? I was not always like that. But the workload helps me to get to that point. So exercise is very important. I don't care what kind of exercise you're doing, just do it and get to the point where you push your body to fatigue. That's an important thing. So if you're not pushing your body to fatigue, you're not really exercising. And that's how you progress and get better at certain things, pushing to fatigue.
So this morning, can
Yes.
you, do you mind sharing with us again? You said Alzheimer's is caused by something.
Type 3 diabetes. Type 3 diabetes.
No, you're saying that's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Right. So if you were saying that there's something that we can do that will prevent it.
Oh, so to prevent Alzheimer's, there are many things you can do. One is sleeping at the right hours. That's one. Two is keeping your diabetes in check. All right? Type 2 diabetes will be a precursor for that. Another thing is to keep your stress levels down. Exercise helps with that. And that's why exercise is such, I'll talk about it all the time. Exercise helps to burn excess cortisol. It's necessary to burn. Your body doesn't get rid of cortisol naturally or easily. It needs exercise to burn it because that's what it was made to do, fight or flight. It's made for you to move fast, lift heavy objects. So if you're not moving fast or lifting heavy objects, it's going to stay there. Cortisol sitting in the body is a toxin, all right? So your liver's going to store it in the fat until you create a demand where it can burn it, okay? So that stress will also create that fat buildup, which leads to the Alzheimer's as well. So let's look at doctors and nurses, right? Their jobs are very stressful, very dangerous, because they're dealing with life and death. So they have a high-stress job, not getting adequate sleep. They have the highest rate of the disease. So adequate sleep, good exercise, and lowering your stress will prevent you from getting Alzheimer's. It can be if you pace yourself correctly and you use the correct form. A lot of folks injure themselves in the gym because they don't use the right form with the machines or with the, especially free weights. So you have to know how to do what you're doing. That's very important. Another thing is not to use too much weight. That's why a lot of folks use bad form, because they're trying to look cool to their friends. I can bench press 200 pounds. You're not bench pressing correctly. You're doing it incorrectly and you're damaging yourself. And one guy in particular, I remember seeing one of his pectoral muscles completely tear because he wasn't holding the weight properly. So you looked at his chest and you literally saw the muscles just shoot down. That weight went that way and he was, he couldn't move his arm, right? That was painful. But what was he trying to do? Trying to show I can lift all these heavy. So lift what's comfortable, where you can lift and get it done properly, and then increase the weights once that becomes lighter. That's a very important thing to do. You understand? And that's it.
Hi. What about parents that have to put their children or their toddlers to bed every night? Would it affect their health?
What, the toddlers or the parents?
Like the parents' health. Would it affect the parents'
Oh, yeah,
health?
it's definitely going to affect the parents' health. Having a child is a health risk, right? It's definitely going to affect. You're not going to get enough sleep. Your concentration is going to decrease. Your health is going to get bad. You gotta bear with it until you can do better. Babies don't understand that you need sleep. They don't understand that they need sleep. So it's one of those difficult things that you got to bear with for a while. Having too many children can be dangerous in that regard because you put your body, your wife's body, and your body through too much stress, and that can shorten your lifespan as well. So you got to be careful with how much you're enduring. All right?
I have another question. Is riding your bike for 2 hours every day, is that
exercise.
risky?
No, it's not risky. That's good exercise.
Oh, okay.
That's very good exercise, especially if you're enjoying it, because it's also relieving stress. You know, these things are very important. And one very crucial part of healing is trusting God. If you trust God, you can get through almost anything. You can get through anything, not almost. You can get through anything. Trusting in God opens this beautiful door which allows you the opportunity to truly heal, because you're trusting in someone who made your body and he understands what your body needs to function better. I honestly believe that when I beat the tumor, the cancer, when I beat that, it was because of God and God alone. I didn't use any herbs. I didn't use any special remedies or treatments. I simply obeyed these laws, and it shrank and it shrank and it shrank. And the panic attacks, when anybody ever had kidney issues, You do not want, you've had them before, you do not, oh, kidney, I'm not denigrating anybody, downgrading, sorry, anybody else's journey with disease and cancer. But when it's affecting your kidneys, oh my God, it is horrible. I would be woken up at night by panic attacks where I feel I can't breathe. I remember once I am in my underwear and I'm fighting to go outside because I feel like I'm not breathing, and I'm crawling and scratching at my throat and pulling at the snow outside. I didn't like that. That was a horrible feeling. So those panic attacks, the passing out, the low energy, the horrible sleep, the pain, you get a pain in your eyes that was unbearable. All the symptoms were absolutely horrible. So when they started fading away without any herbs and just following these rules, I realized something. Herbs are wonderful, and I do recommend using herbs in many cases. Many diseases, there are herbs I can recommend that you use, especially if you got heart disease, right? But I learned that the most important thing is not the herbs. It's obedience to the principles that we read in the Bible. Simply obeying God's will activates the wonderful promise that we read this morning in Exodus chapter 15, verse 26. If you will hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, he will not put upon thee any of the diseases that befell the Egyptians. If you don't want disease in your life, just obey God's principles. It is as simple as that. So one of the difficulties that we have as Christians is that we often think we can pray away our problems. It ain't going to work. Faith without works is dead. Noah was faithful, and what did he do? He built an ark. So his faith was seen in his actions. If you want God to heal you, but you're eating fried chicken at 3:30 in the morning and sneaking chocolate cake out at night at 11 because you needed a midnight snack, where is the faith? Faith without works is dead. There's no faith there. What are you praying for? And that's a big problem with a lot of Christians. When they got their diabetes and they're about to get something amputated or whatever's happening to them, oh, pray for me, pray for me. I'm not praying for you. Plain and simple. Are you willing to change? If you're not willing to change, why am I praying? What are we praying for? That God bless you in disobedience? Does that make sense? How many of you would pray for your child if they said they wanted to do adult entertainment? Mommy, pray for me that I get the job. Does that make sense? It's the same thing. It don't make sense. You want to do better? Do better. And God will bless you. Would the Red Sea have crossed if the Israelites didn't go to it? Why? They had to be there for the miracle to take place. You want to beat disease, you got to put yourself in the place that God needs you to be so that he can beat the disease. So it's not the herbs. A lot of folks, when folks typically come to me, what herb can I take, what herb can I take, and they always want a quick fix. It took you 25 years to get your disease. I cannot get rid of it in 2 days. You understand that? It takes time. It takes patience. And if you're patient, you can experience healing from any disease because God is able. God doesn't need an herb. God doesn't even need you to be the best follower of this law possible. He just needs your desire, and he will do the rest. And that's a text, isn't it, in the Bible? Philippians 2:13. For it is God which worketh you both to will and to do his good pleasure. So it's not you, it's him. Just having the desire to do good, he put it there. So you can take credit for nothing. So I trust in God. You don't have to trust in him, but I trust him. Genesis chapter 3, verse 17 to 18, and unto Adam he said, because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, thou shalt not eat of it, cursed is what? Why is it cursed? What does it say? For your good, I'm cursing the ground. In sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. What else happens? Thorns and thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat what? So now when sin enters the world, God introduces something to the diet. Where did our food come from before? Where is it coming from now also? The ground. Where do we come from? What's happening to us after sin? We're starting to die. So we need something that we're losing, and it's found where? Where we came from. In the earth, in the herbs, in the greens. One of the things that's very crucial to us is what makes plants green. What makes plants green? Now look at chlorophyll and look at blood. You notice something? They're almost the same. Why is that? Because it's good for the blood. Greens. Best thing you can put in your system to clean your blood is greens. Everything your body needs to make blood is found where? In the greens. But here's another thing. What's in the center of the green? One of the most important things we needed after sin. Because what does sin bring? What did the Bible say brings? Sorrow. What does magnesium help us with? Sorrow. Keeps you calm. So God gave us a diet to combat the death that sin brought, and he gave us magnesium to keep us calm through the process. My God. Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 23. Only be sure thou eat not what? For the what? And thou mayest not eat the flesh, the life with what? The blood with the flesh. Let me tell you something. If any of you ate meat without blood, you wouldn't like it. The reason we like meat is because of blood. One of the greatest examples of that is the creation of the Impossible Burger. The Impossible Burger, the scientists that made it only wanted to mimic the flavor of one thing. What was it? Blood. So they took high amounts of heme from peas so that it would mimic blood and taste like blood. So when people eat the Impossible, what's the first thing they say? It tastes like meat. Because what are we looking for? The blood. If you ate meat without any blood, like you ate kosher meat, like how some of the Muslims and the Jews do, you hate it. It ain't got no taste. Tastes horrible. So in this country in particular, we are the land of the medium rare. What does medium rare mean? Cow still alive. Lots of blood. Why is that dangerous? Let me ask you something. If I prick my finger, how many of you would want to suck the blood that came out of it? What's your first thought? No, not just germs. What else? I might get what? I might get a disease. You don't think of that when you're cutting the steak and looking at its blood coming out. It's the same thing. All the disease that that animal carried through its life is found where? In its blood. And guess how many diseases animal gets? All the diseases we get. In fact, some of the diseases we have today came from animals. Syphilis came from goats. Yes. Yes. And it came the same way we spread it to each other. All right? There are a lot of diseases that come from animals. Right? So it's not like the animals are immune to disease. They get sick too. And then we eat them. Now let's look at the farms that the animals live in. Do they look like they're getting the best medical care? No. So do they look like they're going to be free from disease? No. But you eat them. And then you get them. And now you're sick. Why am I sick? What did God say? Don't eat it. The life of the flesh is where? In the blood. And that's how we eat meat. So if you want to eat meat, I am not telling you not to. I never do that. It's not my place to tell you to or not to do something. I'm just asking you, if you're going to eat it clean. Remove the fat, remove the skin, remove the blood. There was a reason why God asked us to do these things, because he knew how dangerous it would be if we ate these things. All the toxins. Skin is a filter. You're eating a filter. Remember when you were younger, they always told you to eat your liver because it was healthy for you? Liver. Eat the liver. Animal liver. That was the worst thing we could ever give someone to eat. Your liver, or any animal's liver, is the body's greatest filter. To eat someone's liver is like going to a, you ever notice like those filters on a water cooler at school? You notice how green and slimy they were? Sucking that is eating a liver. What that filter is doing to the water is what your liver does to your body. Do you understand that? So you're sucking a dirty filter. That's basically what you're doing. I like to be graphic. It helps it to set it. Because of the high iron and the other minerals that it would have. See, the liver is also the storage for nutrients. So the question was, why did they tell us to eat liver? Because the liver was high in nutrients. Most nutrients, all the nutrients in your body are stored in the liver. So the idea was, if we eat the animal's liver, we get all the nutrients. But you also get everything else attached to it. If that animal has ever had a disease, where do most diseases we get? Where do they live? They live in your liver. If you had tuberculosis, yellow fever, any of the diseases, these viruses live in your liver to this day. There's another one that you get from ticks, Lyme disease. It lives forever where? In your liver. So if you eat the animal liver, the cow that had Lyme disease, and you eat its liver, what are you introducing into your system? Lyme disease.
Mike coming. We're going to have intermission.
Is that a quicker way to get Lyme? I can't speak on that.
Eating that liver with the Lyme disease, because I know, this is my first time hearing this, because I only think you can contract Lyme disease through ticks, but that's just a faster way. Eating it is just a faster way you can contract it as opposed to ticks. It takes like, 48 hours for you to contract it?
I can't speak on that because I haven't seen the data on it. So anything I say will be a guess or an estimation.
Gotcha.
Right? So I can't speak on that because your stomach acids might be able to kill most of it. So I can't speak on that. But you're still exposing yourself to it. It's the same thing with with HIV. It can bypass the stomach acids and still get into the system, but it's not all the time. Sometimes it can be stopped. So to say it's a faster way, I don't have the data. I don't even know if they've done a study on that. Probably won't. But it is something that I can't speak intelligently on. I could just estimate or guess. All right.
So like eating squid.
Yes.
Right. Caramel, whatever they call it.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So that's also like eating. They're like the sea cleaner.
Not really. They don't really clean the sea. Oh, sorry, the calamari or squid, they clean the sea. They're not really sea cleaners, right? They don't function like that. However, they don't have the organs or the makeup to filter their body. That's why they have a very short lifespan. So whatever they accumulate in them through eating other things or whatever, it's in them, and it's all through them. So when you consume them, especially how a lot of people like to eat them raw, you're putting yourself at risk for a lot. So you want to stay away from these creatures because they weren't made to be consumed, period.
But right? I thought it looks like a big glob of mucus.
It does. That's the one reason I wouldn't want to eat it. She was just saying that it may help. The way that they're made is to make them clean the ocean, but they're not categorized as scavengers. So it's hard to say that that's what they're doing. You understand? There's a question in the back. Go ahead.
Yes. The question is that I noticed that a lot of back in the day when a lot of Southern people was eating pig feet and chitlins. What's the effects of that?
Okay, here's one. How many of you had a pig farm? Anybody grew up where there's a pig? You had a pig farm. Wonderful. When a pig died, what eats it? Other pigs. What else eats it besides the other pigs?
Themselves?
Nothing.
Oh.
If you have a pig farm, and I've seen it before when I was in Trinidad, The farmer took the pig and he put it on the corner. Nothing ate it. Cat died, they ate the cat. Goat died, they ate the goat. The vultures, what did I say?
Vultures.
The vultures refused to eat the pig. The only thing that eats a dead pig is other pigs.
Oh, humans.
Is that bad? Whoa.
Right? Because even the vultures who eat dead things know not to mess with a pig. Does that answer the question? What does it do to you? Everything. Our bodies are not meant to consume that animal. It's one of the worst land scavengers possible. Pigs do not have a circulatory system, so they have no way of cleaning anything in their bodies. That's why they're so good at getting rid of snakes. You got snakes in your yard, you want to get rid of them? Release some pigs. The pigs will eat the snakes. Why? Because when the snakes bite them, they don't have a circulatory system to allow the venom to go up into their bodies. So where they were bitten gets big, it swells up, it opens up, the pus runs out, and then the other pigs eat it. That's what pigs do. But that's what pigs do, right? So they have no way, they only have one major artery that flows from their head to their tail, and everything else is basically capillaries. So they don't have a proper filtration system, and they're the worst meat to eat because they're the most toxic. That's why they're perfect carriers for the tapeworm. Why would you eat them? Nothing else eats them. But Satan, it is sweet. I've eaten pork before, chitlins and etc. It tastes good. But when you realize what you're eating, it changes everything. It ain't good no more. You know, I didn't know chitlins was the intestine. Like you see them doing it, right? But you never dawned on it, oh, wait a minute. That's this thing's guts. But that's what it was. And you should have known that you shouldn't eat the chitlins because when they would clean the chitlins, it stank like nobody's business. What was coming out of it? I don't know how we looked at that and said that, okay, so what we're going to do, right? We're going to practice what we were preaching earlier. Let's just stand up for a second. We've been sedentary for a little bit, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to engage our peripheral pumps. Very easy to do that. You're going to go up on your toes and go back down. Just do a couple of those. There you go. Wonderful. You'll notice that it makes you feel better too after a while. Now, if you can't do this, just move around a little bit, right? And just rock. You ever notice kids do that sometimes? Like they'll just sit there and do that. Their little bodies know exactly what they need to do. And we sometimes chastise them and get angry with them. And they're just trying to live. They're just trying to live. They don't always understand it, but that's what you want to do. So now when you do that, you're helping the blood to flow through your body. I've been standing, so I don't really need that. You'll also notice that your head feels a little different too because the blood's flowing better. So it increases concentration. So ever so often, if you do work a desk job, before you get to the 2-hour mark, one thing you always want to do, stand up, do like 10 or 20 of those calf raises, and you get to negate the effects of sitting there too long in the pooling of the blood. You got a question? We need a mic. Sister Smith, I think we need a mic. I know, right?
All right, so I know you went over the whole the pigs and stuff. So as far as even with crustacean, because I know even with, like, you mentioned the chitlins and they cleaning out the poop and stuff, I notice a lot of people that eat seafood, whatever that brown stuff is, I mean, it's the same, not the same, but the same concept. It's still nasty. It's
the guts.
Oh, it's the guts. It's
It's
not.
the guts.
Oh, I thought it was poop.
There could be poop in it.
But yeah, that's.
Did they clean it out?
No, people
Exactly.
never clean out. They
never
just
clean
eat it
them
like
out.
it's soup out the crab shell.
I think they do it for shrimp. I think they do cut them and pull that thing out, but for most of them, no. They leave it in sometimes? Okay. So then that's a string of poop. It sounds weird, right? But I don't eat crab. Okay, guys, you can sit down.
Okay.
Thank you very much for participating.
Yeah.
We have a question. Go ahead.
I would like to find out what causes tremors in the body.
Oh, that's a tough one. So finding out the cause of tremors is It's kind of difficult. So it could be a nutritional issue, it could be a psychological issue, and it could be a physiological issue in the brain. So understanding exactly which one is causing it, you got to go through some testing to see if you have some flaring or some issues with the synapses in your brain. You need to see if there's any nerve damage, because if you're just tremoring in one place alone, there could be some nerve damage between the brain to that area. It could be a nutritional deficiency like we spoke about earlier. If you don't get enough minerals, you're not going to get that. So one way to see if it's a mineral issue is to get adequate minerals for about 21 days. How long? 21 days. If the tremors lessen, it's most likely a mineral issue. If the tremors don't lessen, keep looking, because it could be something else. So isolating the exact cause is a little difficult. You're not going to just figure that one out. You got to figure out if it's physiological, psychological. Sometimes it's psychological. It could be stress. Excess stress can do that too. Or it could be a nutrition issue, and you just need to add certain nutrients into your system, like certain minerals, certain enzymes, to get the body function like it should. So you really need to figure out, which one am I? You're welcome. All right? So when you look at health, health is not a difficult thing. We've been given the simple outlines, God's plan. If you can follow God's plan on a daily basis, the odds of you getting sick are very low. It's very simple. And I try my best to live up to this on a daily basis. I can't say I was perfect on that this week. I was trying my best to get rid of all the work possible so that when Sabbath came, I could rest. So I'm telling you now, when I leave here, I'm going straight to bed. I got some sleep to catch up on. And I again also say I don't recommend what I did for anyone. Working 36 hours without sleep is not a good thing. Did you hear me? Not a good thing. But I did it so that I can have time to do the Lord's work. So I think He's rewarded me for that. But it's not always a good thing. I think when I go on mission trips, it's even worse. Getting me to sleep on a mission trip is really hard. And then when we do get to sleep, we're woken up because it's an emergency somewhere. Like when we were in South America, we were deep in the Amazon. Was it near Brazil or Venezuela? It was near Venezuela. Yes, because this one didn't have the gorillas. So we're near Venezuela. We're deep in the Amazon. And I spent an entire day. Now, this number may seem ridiculous, but I had to see 122 or 23 people that day from 6 o'clock till about 8 o'clock, right? 7 o'clock. And then from 7 to 8:30, I'm doing a presentation. And now I'm finally getting some sleep. And then they wake me up 12 o'clock. There's a lady who is in a coma, and she's trembling, and her eyes are rolled back. Well, I can't say let's deal with that in the morning because there's no hospitals out there. The nearest hospital is a plane ride, and the plane can't always come because the plane is determined by the weather. So I'm her only hope by God's grace. Here we are walking through the Amazon, pitch black darkness. There are literal snakes everywhere. You understand? Where am I? Amazon. And when we were coming back, we saw a guy, he was hunting with his dog, and he had a big snake with him. We walked past that snake on the way to that woman's house. Who kept it at bay? The Lord, right? When we got into this lady's house, I can't see nothing. I can't even see my hands. And then they put the flashlight on her. Her eyes are rolled back. We have no testing equipment. We ain't got nothing to deal with. I'm looking at this woman and asked her, what does she suffer from? They weren't sure. I think they didn't speak English that well. Was that it? Someone came in to help us. So there's nothing. I don't know anything. I stood back and I said, Lord, you know. What should I do? He didn't tell me what it was, but he said, give her cinnamon. I did have cinnamon with me. Made some cinnamon water, and we put it in her mouth, and she swallowed it. I don't know how, but she did, because she's eyes rolling back. She swallowed, and we just did that over and over, over and over, over and over. And then finally a nurse came, because they had to get a nurse. Finally a nurse came with her blood testing equipment. Blood sugar was over 400. And all we had was cinnamon and a prayer. And we kept giving her the cinnamon. An hour or two later, She opened her eyes. She started blinking. She couldn't talk because her body is still recuperating. But 2 hours later, she sat up. Next morning, perfectly fine. Amen. What did that? That's God. I didn't know what was wrong with her. A coma could be anything. She could be having a seizure. I don't really know what's happening. So I have no testing. I have nothing on me. Pitch black darkness. God knows what we need before we do. God has the answers to our problems before we even know. I believe it was God that told me to bring my bag because that's where the cinnamon was. Why else would I bring it? But I grabbed the bag. We had everything that we needed because we had God on our side. So whatever disease that you face, whatever issue that you're faced with or difficulty, the issue or disease is not there to hurt you. The disease is meant to save you. Diabetes is because you have too much fat in your system and there's too much sugar in your system. That's type 2. Type 1 diabetes is an insulin issue, typically from birth, right? That's a genetic thing. We can't really do much about that. That's genetic. But a lot of the diseases that you develop, or what you call lifestyle diseases, all of them take place to keep you alive. A tumor, a cancerous tumor, is meant to keep the cancer out of your body. That's why you develop a tumor. It's not there to hurt you or kill you. It notices that you have cancer, so it encapsulates the cancer until your body can do something with it. But when you go to the doctors, what do they need to do to tell if it's cancer? So they look at this sac that they know has something the body doesn't want in it, and they do what to it? They poke it. And then all of a sudden, they tell you what? No, they tell you it's benign. You don't have anything. Months later, you have what? You got cancer. 78% of women who have breast cancer developed it after doing a biopsy. Once you remove the lymph nodes, what are lymph nodes? They're filters. That's why they picked up the cancer that they picked up. Because the lymph nodes are filters. That's what they're meant to do, remove the cancer. Now you remove the lymph nodes. What's fighting the cancer in your breast? Nothing. So what does a cancer get a chance to do now? It's not metastasizing yet. It gets a chance to develop. So now you have breast cancer, and there's no lymph nodes to keep them at bay, so now it can metastasize.
Mike coming.
So do you believe that it would have been better for them to try to just remove the tumor rather than even doing a biopsy?
Yes.
Let's just get rid of it.
Yes. That would be better.
Rather than poking it.
Correct.
Right.
That would be better. But they have to do testing to confirm in many cases. And so the testing process now puts you at risk for the disease and can kill you faster.
I'm wondering if you can opt, tell a
You
doctor,
can, but a lot of folks
opt
don't know.
to ask them, hey, just remove it.
You
I
can.
don't want you to test it.
You can, but a lot of folks don't know that, so they just go by what the doctor says. One of the ways that they catch you before they even test it is every year they tell women to do what? What are they doing to your breasts? They're smashing it. Now, if you got a pocket of a thin pocket with fluid in it and you smash it, what's going to happen to that pocket? It's going to pop. Now, what did you just release into that woman's breast tissue? Whatever the cells were trying to keep until they could get rid of it. We fight cancer on a daily basis. Notice what I'm saying. Sometimes you get a lump or a bump somewhere. It could be a tumor. But after some months, what typically happens to those lumps and bumps? They go away because your body is able to remove it. Now, when we fight against that and hinder our body's ability to remove the disease naturally, and we intervene, the body cannot fight what we do because it wasn't ready for it. When it encapsulates a tumor, it does that so that it can build up enough certain types of white blood cells, the NK cells, the natural killer cells, and the NK and the, what is that other one? There's another white blood cell besides the NK. It's not a neutrophil. Neutrophils are innate. We need the adaptive. It's one of the white blood cells, T cell. It's a T cell. So one of the T cells. So it makes this T cell, the natural killer cell and the T helper, T regulatory. and it'll come back, right? So these two white blood cells, they're very difficult to make because they're so good at what they do. These white blood cells go to every cell and they identify the cell. If it's not functioning like it should, they kill it. They don't kill the cells like the other white blood cells where they engulf it and dissolve it. They sting them like a bee and inject a cytotoxin inside of it that completely burns out the cell. So that's how they work. They're very good at what they do. So in order to fight the tumor, the body is now, we got a tumor, white blood cells take all the nutrients that you need to make mature natural killer cells and the other T cell. And when they have enough of it, they send them like an army to the tumor and slowly dissolve it away. That's what your body does naturally. This is not new. When I did microbiology, yes, I did microbiology before I became this. That we knew this. We saw it in the labs. There are videos that you can look to see the cells doing it. That's what they do. So why is it that all of our cancer treatments go against what the body naturally does? Money. The root of all evil. So we have a question in the back, and then we'll take you.
So on this point, scenario, there's since a woman, right, and she has.
If you have a tendency to speak low, even though you have the mic, some of us don't hear well, so try to speak just a little louder for people like me.
All right.
And I'm sorry if I did.
No, I'm not embarrassed at all. I'm speaking as much as I can. So I guess, maybe the speakers, I don't know if they could. Yeah.
All right, what's the question?
Yeah, I got to recalibrate for my question.
Yes.
The scenario is that a woman with a heterogeneous mass on the ovary, and maybe let's say it's like between 3 and 4 centimeters. So I know it's different. That would be different than like on the actual uterus, it being on the ovary. But they say they want to do an MRI, for further testing. Or I guess the question is, can soy aggravate that, or is that like what's a protocol? What's a protocol for something?
So if it's
like
heterogeneous, it's not just
benign,
one type of cell.
Quote unquote benign.
It's other cells that are being active. So homogeneous would be one cell. Hetero is more than one type. Most female diseases that affect the sexual organs are triggered by estrogen. Soy has phytoestrogens. Now, the interesting thing about soy estrogens, if they're natural, non-GMO, and organic, they can be beneficial. Not in all cases, but in most cases, it can be beneficial. When you have a hormone issue like that, you need to look at its source. Sometimes the issue could be the thyroid. And fixing the thyroxine levels in your thyroid can sometimes be all you need for down there. That's sometimes. In other cases, it's the progesterone levels. If this person does not have a regular period, she doesn't have the corpus luteum that is necessary for the production of progesterone. So she's not producing enough progesterone to keep the estrogen at the way it should be. It could be a vitamin D deficiency. Vitamin D converts excess estrogen into progesterone, keeping things balanced and level. If she was exposed to radiation or certain chemicals that she may use, because some women do have allergic reactions to tampons or pads and liners because of the chemicals that they use to make them, and it can cause reactions and irritations that can lead to cancer. Could be that. Could be a reactive response to something that she's exposed to. It could just be a growth that the body's trying to deal with, and it will deal with naturally on its own, especially if she gives it the right environment to do that. But one of the things that she definitely wants to do is check her thyroxine levels and check her estrogen levels. Estrogen levels, you got to go to a doctor and check. Your thyroxine levels are very easy to check. If they're low, you just take a drop of iodine and you put it into the cleft of your arm. If it disappears within 5 minutes, your thyroxine's too low. So it's sucking up as much iodine as possible to make more. So you want to introduce more iodine foods like lentils and other things like that, or sea vegetables like seaweed and et cetera to increase it naturally. So what you need to do is isolate exactly what the problem may be. Go get your blood tests to see if your thyroxine levels are good, if your estrogen levels are too high, or if your progesterone levels are too low. See where your vitamin D levels are. And so from a blood test, you can be able to tell many of these things. And so that's what you may want to do so that you can isolate the cause. Knowing exactly what's causing it is exactly how you beat it. Thyroxine is very important to the metabolism because it's necessary for most of the breakdown of many things in our body. So she could be going through metabolic fatigue, which could lead to other issues that can cause that as well. So like you see, there's so many things. So once you can isolate exactly what's causing it, you know exactly how to fight it. Is that clear? I hope so. Clear as mud. That's not a good thing. Yes?
This is not really a question, but it's just a comment. I appreciate you for really telling the truth on these things because it now makes sense why Jesus says be not deceived. Because there's a lot of deception. There's a lot of deception going on in the world, and especially when it comes to our health. And I really appreciate you telling the truth because a lot of this stuff I did not know, so I could really take this to my family because I'm sure a lot of us can take this back to our families because there's a lot of these issues that we see going in our personal spaces. So I appreciate you for even telling the truth about this.
Praise the Lord. Amen. Yes. Amen. So, okay, there's one more question, and then I got to wrap it up. It's getting late.
Okay, so wait, you said women can get breast cancer from a biopsy, breast biopsy?
It could be if the biopsy is on something that has cancer in it.
Oh, that's cancer.
They're putting you at risk of now spreading it. If the biopsy is, for example, a removal of the lymph nodes, now you no longer have lymph nodes to keep whatever they did find at bay, so it has leeway to just spread anywhere it wants to. So a lot of the methods that we use for detection in some of these cases can become very difficult for the woman and increase her chances of getting sick. So the yearly routine, the mammogram, increases your chances of getting it. The biopsies, when you do have a lump or a swollen lymph node, increases the chances of getting it. So it's one of those issues. So what I want to touch on was back to heart disease, and I wanted to touch on the salt in particular. All right? And then we could move forward. Now, the reason I'm taking you back to the salt is very important. It's very important to your diet. You should never live without salt. Every day you should consume salt. What kind of salt? Celtic or pink Himalayan. These salts are so important to the body. You need these minerals to function normally. You need these minerals for hydration. You need these minerals for proper communication in your body and your organs and your cells. All these things are used by the body. So if you don't have enough of them, your body's not functioning optimally. God knew this, so when he made our diets, the original diet that God made, fruits, nuts, grains, and vegetables, are loaded with minerals and vitamins, right? And they're also loaded with water. Vegetables are mostly water. Fruits are mostly water. Water is so important to us. So your hydration is not just simply the water that you drink. It can also come from the food that you consume if you eat the right kinds of food. So you want to make sure that your plates, if you suffer from high blood pressure or diabetes, you want to make sure that your plate is colorful, right? Many fruits and vegetables, and you change it up as much as possible. Eating healthy is only boring when you eat the same thing every day. I don't know how some people do it. Change it up. Travel as much as possible. You'd be surprised how much money you save when you cut things out your diet. You take ice cream, meat, and eggs out your diet, you'd be surprised how much money you save. How much is a pound of chicken? It's a lot of money. How much is a gallon of milk? The prices are just going up and up, and eggs are a luxury item now. You know what I'm saying? Once you cut these items out, you'd be surprised how much money you save, and you can travel and eat certain foods. I recommend doing that, because when I did it in South America, I was blown away. I didn't know food could taste good. Remember I said I don't like okra? I still don't like okra. But I ate okra in South America in the Amazon. It blew my mind. First of all, it didn't taste nothing like our okra. It was still slimy. I'm still not used to that. But it tastes good. I took a bite out of it, and I'm like, what is this? It's okra. No, it's not. This ain't the stuff we used to eat. My grandmother would take it. She's from the Caribbean. She would take it with cornmeal and make this thing they call fungi with the okra in it. Anytime she put the okra in it, I was not eating it because I hated it. But if she was able to use that kind of okra, I might have liked it. It's just okra, but it's where it's grown. Yeah, slimy.
But when you
Oh,
eat it
like raw. No, I'm not eating it raw.
Okay, so here's the thing with the okra.
Yeah.
And I'm talking, but it's asking.
Yeah.
Because I take okra.
Yeah.
Slice it up.
Yeah.
And put it in water. Let it sit in the refrigerator
Very
for a
good.
couple days.
Yeah.
So the water is kind of slimy.
Correct.
But I was told it was good for diabetes.
It is, because it's soluble fiber. So what's making that gel is a soluble fiber inside of the okra. So anything that makes that gel, soluble fiber. So the water is making the fiber more soluble, and that's what you're consuming. Soluble fiber keeps the sugar down in the body, and that's why it's so beneficial. So the old folks know what they were doing. You had the question, brother. And this is the last one.
Okay. Yes, I remember you were talking about the importance of exercise. I wanted to ask you, some people exercise 5 times a week, but some people, that would be too much. And then some people say just 3 times a week. And then you're saying, well, also another question, saying with food, mix it up. Is it also good with exercise to also mix it up as well?
Oh, yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. So when it comes to exercise, you do what's best for you and what's convenient for you. If you don't have the time, because you still got a family and a life, you don't have the time to exercise 5 times a week, then don't. Or shorten your exercise routines. That's another thing. You don't have to spend 2 hours in the gym. It's not necessary. It's got to be purposeful. Now, you need your heart beating fast. How long does it take to get your heart beating fast?
Oh, not long.
Less than a minute.
Jumping ropes.
So if you do certain exercises and you get your heart pumping, that's what you really want to do. Get your heart pumping really good, and your body's going to respond to it really well. So your exercise routine in the gym could be, the shortest I would recommend is half an hour. That's the shortest. I don't recommend shorter than that. Half an hour is the shortest. The longest, you can go as long as you want. That's on you. But shortest, half an hour. If I go to the gym, I typically take an hour to maybe an hour and a half. That's maybe. And one of the main reasons it takes that long is because when I'm free, everybody else is free. So I got to wait till somebody's done with the machine to use it. That gets irritating. But when the gym is clear, I can clear out of there in an hour. Very easy, because I'm going from one exercise to the next. Can most people do that when they first start off? No. They got to take breaks in between. Take your breaks in between. Catch your breath and do it correctly. Doing workout correctly is more important than anything else. It is not a show. It's not about looking good as much as it is about feeling good. And you're going to feel good if you do it right and you do it sustained for a long period of time. It takes about 21 days to build a habit, and 21 days to truly feel the benefit of working out. You're not going to feel it that much. Yeah, you're going to get a little bit of the adrenaline rush and the oxytocin and serotonin and et cetera. You're going to get that nice feeling. But if you do it for 21 days, it becomes a different thing. And exercise can become a part of your life, and you don't want to stop. And your body's going to love you for it. So exercise, eat right, drink water, get good sleep between the hours of 10 and 2. Reduce your stress. That's one of the most beautiful things about trusting God. Because if God is so powerful and so great, and he loves us so much that he gave his only begotten son for us, a God that powerful and that great, willing to sacrifice his son, what do you have to fear when he's on your side? So when the bills come your way, when disease comes your way, what did Jesus remove from death? Its sting. Death lost its sting because death is now temporary sleep. It is not permanent. Death can't separate you from God. Nothing can. So everything that's dangerous and scary about this world loses its power when you know the God that you serve. And that's what helps me through, because I believe that God had a purpose for me. So I believe that he would take me through what I went through when I got sick. And he did. And the purpose was, I need you to get sick so that you can help other people that get sick. So he pulled me through. And I'm very thankful for it because I understand what it's like to be sick. I understand what it's like to not feel good and not sleep good and not be able to eat good and throwing up and etc. Man, it was horrible. But I made it through. Now I don't ever get sick. You know, even through the whole COVID thing. I supposedly had COVID, and I was completely asymptomatic. I sat down and I was like, okay, I guess this is what happens. And then we were privileged to take care of COVID clients and when they got sick. And we were in New York at this time. I remember the first patient that we got. She was the daughter of a lady from one of our churches. And the mother, sorry, she was the mother of a lady from one of our churches. And she was like, they just turned my mother down. She's diabetic. She's really sick, but the hospital doesn't have any more beds. What can we do? We said, bring her. We took care of that lady in 4 days. She was walking and on her feet. They gave her up to die. In 4 days, she was up and walking and on her feet. So I was constantly exposed to people with it. I didn't get it. Because the promise was, in Exodus and in Deuteronomy, that if you do what? Obey the words that God gave us, what would he do? None of the diseases on you. And I realized, as long as I am obedient to the laws of health, no matter where I go and what diseases are around me, I didn't get it. I got bitten, got malaria, affected me for 2 hours, and I was good. 2 hours. It's like, no, you're going to be out for months, and you know you're going to have to build yourself back up. I went through the tremors. The tremors lasted 2 hours, and I was like, is that it? That was it. I'm still here. What did I do? I went to sleep. Oh, what did I do? Oh, I got bit. Listen, when you're in South America, you can't avoid mosquitoes. There are more mosquitoes than I don't know anything. They're made there. Like, that's the mosquito factory, and they distribute mosquitoes everywhere else. All right? That's what that was like. So you couldn't avoid that. I was going to get bitten regardless. I just didn't think I'd get it. So that time when I did get it, I think it was a reminder of the Lord because prior to that, someone gave me some cake. I ate a little too much of it. I'll admit that. So I think the Lord let me, hey, son, trying to keep you safe. You got to be more temperate. And boom, that thing hit me. But it was just 2 hours. And I was good. Now, malaria could kill you, right? 2 hours, that's all it took me. And my body seemed to neutralize it, and I was perfectly fine. And I'm trying to figure out what happened to me, what was going on. Malaria. You have malaria, sir. What? So anyway, God is good. There are many testimonies and things I could share with you guys. Hopefully you can come by tomorrow at 1:30. We're going to talk about cancer. I'm scratching the surface when it comes to cancer. We're going to go in detail about cancer, what causes cancer, what it really is, how it functions, how to beat it, how to prevent it. You know, we're going to talk about those things at 1:30 at the Lunch and Learn.
And it would not be streamed.
It will not be streamed. So unfortunately, you got to be here for that. I do not advertise that I have the cure for cancer. The cure for cancer is the good Lord up above. Amen. I just advertise his methods. Amen? Amen. All right, everyone. Let's.
You good?
All right, let's just say a quick word of prayer and let us close. It's already late. Let us pray. Dear most kind and Heavenly Father, we thank you for the time we were able to share. We thank you for everything that you were able to share, Lord, because your ways are perfect, true, and good. We ask, Heavenly Father, that you give us guidance, wisdom, and understanding, that you help those that were here and those that were listening online to learn more about your methods and your plans, and also about the herbs that are very helpful to the body. There are wonderful herbs that we can use to help the body in its healing process. We're not going to throw that away. And there are wonderful doctors and nurses in the medical field who care about us and want to see us do good. Lord, we're not bashing them. It is the system that is a danger. And Lord, you want us free from the system, free from the trap, free from the perpetual going back and forth and trying this and trying that and not getting better. Lord, you have the method and you have the solution that we need. Give us the strength to follow your methods. Give us the strength to learn your methods and to put them into practice. so that we can feel the benefit of obedience to your will. We love you, we trust you, and Lord, help us to move forward according to thy will and thy will alone. In Jesus' precious name we pray. Amen.
The Sabbath is still in fact, but we have ended Health and Temperance Sabbath Day at this moment, so enjoy the rest of the Sabbath. Drive safely. Lord willing, see you tomorrow.
Okay. Mm-hmm.